controversial conclusion of this match. It could have gone without the involvement of D-Generation X and the NWO. I will say that the NWO and DX didn't have to get involved and treat Sting the way that they did. Walking over Sting, really, in my opinion, is how this one went. Originally going into the match, if you can remember back prior to WrestleMania 31 and all the videos of predictions for Triple H's versus Sting's fallout, I was predicting that Sting was going to win the match. Was really pissed off over this, and I'm posting video after video after video of criticism towards the Authority and Triple H's sense of direction in WWE, believing that wrestling fans have no knowledge of politics when it comes to the business, and we know more about politics than what Triple H or the Authority or any executive member of the board in WWE will ever give us credit for knowing as wrestling fans. Some of the wrestling fans out there are some of the smartest people and knowledgeable people in the business, and I really believe that if fans were general managers of wrestling every 2 weeks, either Raw or SmackDown, the ratings would drastically improve from what they are. We'd see more of the legends on television. We'd see more people being given the benefit of the doubt who usually aren't being given the benefit of the doubt in the way of people like Daniel Bryan and The Undertaker, who lost his streak just last year at WrestleMania 30. At WrestleMania 30 in that match with Brock Lesnar, their first match in over a decade since their feud back in 02 and 03. Definitely more people would be being given the benefit of the doubt. We'd have more to talk about conversational-wise when it came to social media conversations on Facebook and Twitter, especially on Twitter, with all the negative tweets that WWE are receiving, with their creative direction being lost in the minds of a lot of wrestling fans. If you follow the conversations of wrestling fans, it's believed now that WWE are losing their creative sense of direction, and I think they've lost it not just recently, but they've been losing it for a while. Especially even more so now, it's evident with Sting losing to Triple H. I thought Sting was going to win. You would have thought Sting would have won his first WWE match ever. It would have been something different if Sting would have had his third or fourth match by the time he fought Triple H and lost then and there. But I mean, this was Sting's first match ever, and he goes as far as to lose and actually signs on to lose to Triple H in his first match, a man he had hated for the better part of the last decade, since at least ever 04 or 05. He had hated Triple H, and he actually agreed to sign on to lose to Triple H. That's what I'll never understand. Where does Triple H get off, winning over Sting and actually having Sting agree to sign a contract to lose to Triple H? So there's got to be something in there on Sting's contract. This really should lead you to believe there's got to be something on Sting's contract that guarantees him something for the future, either a win over The Undertaker or a win over whoever the champion is by the time Sting decides to challenge the champion and reemerge in WWE. This has not got to be the last time we're going to be seeing Sting. Sting is going to be showing up more than once in the very near future. Obviously, Sting has signed on to get something out of coming to WWE and benefit, and obviously it's going to be benefiting in a big way. Now, there's something about WrestleMania 32's venue in Dallas, Texas next year that makes sense to me to have Undertaker versus Sting. I've been leaning towards this ever since Sting lost to Triple H at WrestleMania 31, even more so when Sting first showed up in WWE. It's beyond me why they didn't go with Sting versus The Undertaker, to give The Undertaker a reason to come back right after losing his streak, less than a year after losing his streak to Brock Lesnar, with all the controversy surrounding that, how many wrestling fans didn't agree with how The Undertaker lost. And I think The Undertaker would have been the perfect first opponent for Sting, with Sting defeating The Undertaker. Then from there, he could have gone on to lose to Triple H. You see where I'm going with that? It would have been different if Sting would have had his third or fourth match against Triple H, but it was his very first WWE match. I mean, come on. I mean, Goldberg even came in and won his first match against The Rock in April of 03, and you would have thought The Rock would have ran through Goldberg. But for some reason, WWE get enjoyment out of making mockeries of huge names that came from World Championship Wrestling, and unquestionably Sting was one of the biggest, if not the biggest name to ever be produced from World Championship Wrestling. Ted Turner and Eric Bischoff giving Sting the money to run with his character the way that Sting wanted to. He came back revamped from the bleach blonde Sting into the Crow Sting, which was an amazing revamptation of Sting when the NWO were running roughshod over World Championship Wrestling. I mean, they had phenomenal video packages of Sting. Sting was getting the better of Triple H week in and week out. Some of the things that were pointing us in the direction of believing Triple H had a chance of winning was the fact Triple H was on a losing streak and had won a match at WrestleMania since WrestleMania 29 back in 2013 in New York, New Jersey, and one of the more controversial WrestleManias we had seen in years, with The Rock and John Cena Part 2 headlining the show. There was so much controversy about that, how it didn't really have a purpose of being done the second time over, and Brock Lesnar versus Triple H, which also didn't seem to have a purpose. Triple H had not won a match since then, and obviously he was on a losing streak. That was to be noted, and Sting was getting the better of him every single week since debuting at Survivor Series. So obviously Triple H had to get momentum some way, somehow, and obviously getting that momentum was by defeating Sting. And now because of the fall of the WrestleMania 31 turning out the way that it did, everything happening with Triple H winning, D-Generation X getting involved, feuding with the NWO, Seth Rollins coming out of WrestleMania as champion, and a falsely advertised match which became a triple threat match near the end when Brock Lesnar hit the F5 on Roman Reigns, was closing in on the win. Here comes Authority member Seth Rollins to finally cash in. I understand how Seth Rollins only had about 2 months left on the contract to be valid to cash in to get the Money in the Bank briefcase's benefits, but did he have to do it the way that he did? I really don't know, and that's why I dubbed Seth Rollins and have been dubbing him for a while, even more so in the fall of the WrestleMania 31 as nothing more than a CM Punk knockoff. Where are CM Punk and Sting while all this is going on, in my opinion? How come they don't form an alliance to go up against the Authority, Seth Rollins and Triple H? How about this? Triple H and Seth Rollins going up against Sting and CM Punk in a tag team match. That would be really interesting in the fallout of WrestleMania 31. But obviously the direction we're going with Sting's character now is one of two ways. He will either challenge The Undertaker next year at WM 32 in Dallas, Texas, be it the venue is perfect for this, or he will challenge whoever the champion is if it is not Seth Rollins. And it makes sense to have Sting face Seth Rollins because Seth Rollins has been taking shot after shot on Sting every chance he gets. He's mentioning Sting and how Sting, of course, was getting the better of Triple H in promos where he's face-to-face with either the COO Triple H or he gets a chance to mention Sting in an interview backstage with some member of the broadcast team. So obviously, we're being pointed in some kind of direction, which seems to be more evident than ever for Sting, but we're just trying to put a finger as wrestling fans on what the direction is for Sting. It's either Undertaker or Seth Rollins or whoever the champion is. So it's really one of three ways for Sting, because I can't see Sting coming back to fight someone like Bray Wyatt, and I can't see Bray Wyatt referring to Sting this soon in the fall of the WrestleMania 31 just coming off a loss to The Undertaker. That would be just completely stupid, and its purpose would really have no purpose, and it would be defeated ever before a purpose was put out for Bray Wyatt to face Sting. So it just would be stupid for someone like Sting to face Bray Wyatt or someone like a Daniel Bryan or a Roman Reigns at this point, because Sting needs to fight the big names. He's obviously under Legends contract. He's under the same kind of Legends contract as a Brock Lesnar or an Undertaker, and that Legends contract only requires Sting to wrestle at the big pay-per-views. Obviously, the next time could be SummerSlam, but he's only required to wrestle at pay-per-views through the Royal Rumble right through to Survivor Series, which is a total of maybe 3 or 4 times a year, just as The Undertaker and Brock Lesnar had signed on WWE 3 or 4 years ago to do. He's under the same kind of contract requirements, and because his contract limits him to how many appearances he can make and how much money he makes, then obviously Sting is going to be facing the big names. And whoever Sting wants to face, even if it's The Rock, they're not going to say no to Sting. So if he wants to face The Undertaker next year at WrestleMania 32, or he wants to come back and face Seth Rollins or whoever the champion is by the time he decides to do it, then they're not going to say no to him, and they're going to agree with Sting because they've waited years for Sting to be under contract. Because you have to believe this and you have to understand this from a political standpoint. WWE have wanted names like Brock Lesnar and Sting to sign with them ever since at least 2006, 2007. Remember when Brock Lesnar tore up the first offer that was offered to him after he left in 2004, 3 years after he departed ways with the company? He tore up the contract because it didn't meet his requirements or his agent's requirements, and he stayed with UFC and sports outside WWE, and it's only now he came back. Years ago, if WWE could have been able to do it, they would have signed names like Brock Lesnar and Sting. It's just they were unable to do it because the requirements that these wrestlers wanted weren't in WWE's, arsenal at that point. So now that they have the requirements to be able to meet the requirements of people like Sting and Brock Lesnar, then they finally signed them. But you better believe that years ago, if they could have signed them long before now, they would have done it if they could have got away with it. But because of being restricted, they were unable to do it. And it's only now people like Sting and Brock Lesnar have agreed to sign these Legends contracts. And that's why I say Legends contracts were the biggest thing that WWE ever implemented, because now with these Legends contracts, fans at least get 1 or 2 opportunities every year to see people like The Undertaker and Sting, and it keeps people like The Undertaker and Sting in good condition so they're able to wrestle year after year, because WWE realized the number of legends they have under contract now are becoming very few and far between, so they can't really overwork people anymore. So these Legends contracts are some of the best things we have ever seen. That's why I think, because of the Legends contracts and how Sting doesn't need to appear on every major pay-per-view even when he's champion eventually, because of these Legends contracts, we have not seen the last of Sting. And you can't have a big name like Sting, a man who was so true to his brand of WCW and TNA for years, even on the independent circuit. You can't have somebody coming back to the major level to lose. And you got to believe Sting is getting something out of this contract. It's not to lose every single match that he's in, because WWE had animosity towards Sting because of everything he said about the McMahons and Triple H for years on YouTube. I go back to that controversial YouTube video in 2005 when Sting said he wanted nothing to do with the McMahon family or WWE or its fans, which surprises me why Sting didn't come back as a heel to feud with The Undertaker, because of how he felt about WWE and all of its fans, how he believed that the fans were mindless sheep. Remember that back in 2005, and they were just being told what to believe, as opposed to what World Championship Wrestling had wanted them to believe and what TNA are trying to make them believe. So that's why Sting stayed away from WWE and stayed with companies like TNA and independent wrestling promotions and did stuff outside of the business. Now he's finally back on the major level. You had better believe, after waiting over 14 years to come to WWE, he didn't sign on to lose. He may have agreed to lose to Triple H, because we know you're paid more to lose from a political standpoint than you are to win. So obviously, because of the money that was offered him to lose to Triple H, because Triple H wanted to come out of this one as the man in the war with DX and the NWO. Obviously, because of him being paid a significant amount, Sting agreed to lose. But you better believe he's getting something out of it, along with being paid a lot to lose to someone like Triple H, because if it were up to Steve Borden, he would have never lost out of someone like Triple H, especially with how he feels about Triple H and will continue to feel about Triple H until the day that he dies, which is why I believe we have not seen the last of Sting. And I wouldn't put it past WWE to have Sting versus Triple H 2 if they go that far to have it. But again, Sting versus Triple H 2 really would have no purpose, just as the John Cena Rock Part 2 match from WrestleMania 29, WrestleManias 28 through 29, had no purpose, and its purpose was defeated ever before something was done with it. So to have Sting versus Triple H 2, there's really no purpose to have this. So that's why I think we should move on from Sting versus Triple H and give Sting something else to do. Now, he did say when he talked about his future on the network that he was going to reach out and grab everything that WWE's board of directors gave him to do. He's just waiting for WWE to throw something his way. And even if they didn't, Sting was going to come back looking for something